Okay, today we're celebrating the feast of St. Barnabas. St. Barnabas the person and St. Barnabas the congregation here that bears his name. Many good reasons to celebrate this feast day. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Samuel and the Israelites. This is really interesting. Apparently, the Israelites had a sort of loose organization for their own government. They were tribes and families. And so they took care of their own affairs, and they also called upon these inspired prophets of God to help take care of things. Now that takes a lot of work and a lot of faith. So after a while, the people say, "We're tired of this. Give us a king." And Samuel, channeling the Spirit, says, "It's not what you want." They say, "Yes, it is what we want. We don't want a prophet. We want a strong man. Lead us into battle." Now, history tends to remember important individuals who have power, good or bad. But the Bible has an interesting point here, a good point, that no one takes power until the people first give it to him. So God says, you want a strong man? You'll get a strong man. But listen to me, he's going to take and take and take. At least 6 times in that passage. Take, take, take. It's interesting that Jesus uses the image of a strong man to indicate Satan. Bind up the strong man, he says, and then you can take back what he's taken from you. Of course, those that have known Jesus all along think that maybe he's losing it. He's going off the rails. He's going a bit too far. He's gathering around all these scruffy crowds. He's casting out demons. He's preaching radical things. So his family comes to take charge. It reminds me in an odd way of this guy I knew in Portland years ago named Andy. I was living on the 3rd floor, renting the apartment on the 3rd floor of this house that had a dubious safety code to it. And on the 1st floor lived Andy. Now Andy came from an old money, blue blood Yankee family. So he'd been given every opportunity for education and advancement. But he obviously wasn't interested. Andy would sit on the front step whenever the weather was decent, with his door wide open. And people would gather around and they would roll cigarettes and sometimes drink beer. And Andy also liked to paint. Beautiful little oil paintings that were crude but colorful. Wonderful. And so I'd have to go by Andy to leave the building. And every time I saw him, I'd say, "Hey, Davey, want a brew?" "Oh, not right now, Andy, thanks." "Want to see one of my new paintings?" "Yeah, I'd love to, Andy. Show me your painting." Andy he had a good spirit. You couldn't spend 2 minutes with this guy without feeling lifted up. It was no wonder he always had a little gathering around him. But now and then, I'd come downstairs and Andy would be sitting there with no beer in hand, and his hair very neatly combed, and looking kind of glum and nervous. I said, "Andy, what's up?" "Oh, Dave, my mom's coming to visit." Apparently, Mom wanted to take charge. Maybe you know someone who lives outside the family a bit. How do you honor their spirit? Maybe you are someone that lives outside the family a bit. How do you honor your spirit? Jesus says there'll be plenty sins, plenty of blasphemies. They'll all be forgiven. But don't diss the Spirit. Do not dishonor the Spirit. But I digress. We're celebrating St. Barnabas. Barnabas was a member of the very earliest church. He was a companion of Paul on his travels. And apparently Barnabas was very motivated and inspired by this nascent Christian group that took care of other people, that went out of its way to take care of the widow and the orphan, literally and figuratively, that took in the outsider. And Barnabas had some means, so he gave of his means, he sold some land, and he gave of his time and energy to help people. He realized that what he had and who he was might be of value to others. So he gave of himself. Now, that giving doesn't belong to Christianity. It doesn't belong to any particular religion or church. It belongs to the Spirit. It comes from the Spirit. So he gave in the Spirit. It honors the Spirit. And the legacy of Barnabas, the person and the congregation, is a legacy of service. It's a legacy, really, of love. Eventually, we all got to learn what God is trying to tell the Israelites. That real power does not consist in having power. Real power is in doing the right thing, doing justice. That's power. Even in small and simple ways. Lend an ear when someone wants to speak. Lend a hand when someone needs some help. Give a ride, pay a visit. That's doing justice. That's being a member of the family of Jesus. A sister, a brother, a mother of Jesus. That's the teaching of Barnabas too. So in the name of Barnabas, may we be so fortunate. Amen.